While European politicians are panicking over pipeline shutoffs and scrambling for overland energy treaties, they are staring at the exact wrong map. The real power is not buried underground. It is floating. Look out to the ocean. Right now, a multi-billion-dollar fleet of Greek-owned LNG supertankers is quietly crossing the Atlantic, locking an entire continent's power grid into massive cryogenic steel vault. We are talking about chilling natural gas to a brutal negative 162 degrees Celsius, squeezing invisible vapor into liquid cash. This is a maritime monopoly dictating the survival of the industrial bloc. Wait a minute. Do you actually think your monthly electricity bill is driven by the free market? Or are you just paying the daily lease on these massive floating machines? Let me know in the comments. Welcome to Energy Axis Intel. My name is the Chief Engineer, and remember, the elite wash the concrete. Look, everyone is talking about pipeline politics. They are sitting in Brussels debating land borders and overland energy independence. But they are completely missing the physical reality of the maritime plumbing. Europe's so-called energy shield wasn't legislated in a parliament. It was welded in shipyards. We are talking about a fortress built out of cryogenic Invar steel, floating on the open ocean, completely outside the jurisdiction of any single government. This isn't about diplomacy anymore. It's about raw thermodynamics and maritime monopoly. If you don't understand how these steel leviathans dictate the pressure of an entire continent's power grid, you have zero clue how energy actually works. Listen to the speeches coming out of Brussels. They sell you a frictionless utopia. They stand at their marble podiums and promise that Europe will simply unplug from Eastern pipeline monopolies and plug into the global market. They talk about energy security and supply diversification like it's a simple software update. No more blackmail. No more supply shocks. Just clean, independent energy flowing seamlessly to keep the lights on and the industrial engines roaring. They paint a picture of a bureaucratic victory, where signatures on a piece of paper magically replace 50 years of entrenched, heavy infrastructure. They want you to believe that breaking free is just a matter of political will. But let's look at the physical reality. You cannot run a German automotive plant on diplomatic promise. You cannot heat a metropolis with a treaty. The entire illusion rests on the assumption that energy transport is easy. They ignore the brutal mechanics, the heavy concrete, and the sheer scale required to actually move this fuel across the planet. Energy doesn't care about your politics. It only obeys the laws of physics and capital. Let's do the math on the actual physics. To replace a single underground pipeline, you have to completely defy nature. You take raw natural gas and subject it to a brutal cryogenic process. You freeze it down to a bone-chilling negative 162 degrees Celsius. This is absolute mechanical violence. You are forcefully shrinking its volume 600 times. 600 to 1. You are literally crushing invisible vapor into a dense, volatile liquid, locking it inside specialized Invar steel membranes just so it survives the journey. And these aren't regular cargo boats. We are talking about 300-meter-long steel leviathans, massive, self-propelled floating thermos flasks, burning heavy bunker fuel just to drag this frozen payload across the turbulent Atlantic. But the real thermodynamic torture begins when this ship hits the Greek coast. Welcome to the FSRU at Alexandroupolis. This isn't just a dock. It is a highly pressurized floating regasification fortress. You have millions of cubic meters of sub-zero liquid that desperately wants to expand. To turn it back into gas, they rip heat from the ocean. They pump massive, continuous volumes of seawater through giant titanium heat exchangers to violently boil the LNG. This forced phase change generates an immense, explosive pressure. That raw kinetic energy is then used to slam the vaporized gas directly into the underground pipeline network, pushing it forcefully north through the Balkans, completely reversing the old Soviet flow. This takes colossal turbines, massive thermal thresholds, and relentless maintenance. This is the concrete reality keeping the grid alive. Let's do the math on the capital expenditure. Because building a physical energy shield on the open ocean is a financial bloodbath. You don't just snap your fingers and summon a fleet. A single modern LNG carrier costs over $250 million to build. A floating regasification unit, an FSRU like the one in Alexandroupolis, easily burns through hundreds of millions more before it even touches the water. We are looking at a maritime infrastructure grid worth over $100 billion. So, who actually pays for all this heavy steel? You might think it's the European governments stepping up to secure their borders. You would be dead wrong. The actual beneficiaries are a handful of Greek shipping tycoons operating completely in the private sector. They control roughly 25% of the entire global LNG fleet. And here is the financial genius of their operation. They don't use their own money to build these floating fortresses. They use the geopolitical panic to secure ironclad, 20-year charter contracts backed by European utilities. Once they have that government-guaranteed paper, they walk into international banks and use it as bulletproof collateral. They secure massive loans at rock-bottom interest rates to fund the shipyard construction. They literally took the crisis, packaged it into a financial asset, and made the European taxpayer underwrite the construction of their private monopoly. This isn't a free market saving the day. This is a masterclass in leveraging public panic into private capital expenditure. The state takes on all the sovereign risk, while the maritime elite own the physical concrete and steel. And as long as those turbines are spinning, the European grid is actively paying off the mortgage on a fleet they will never actually own. But securing the capital is just the beginning. Let's look at the operational reality. Building the ship is one thing. Keeping it alive in the brutal environment of the open ocean is a constant, catastrophic financial bleed. We are talking about severe operating expenses. OPEX that never sleeps. First, you're dragging 300 meters of steel through highly volatile, militarized waters. The maritime insurance premiums alone are astronomical, recalibrated daily based on geopolitical tension. But the real thief is thermodynamics. Remember, you have 170,000 cubic meters of liquid gas sitting at negative 162 degrees. Nature hates that physical imbalance. Despite the highly expensive invar steel and advanced cryogenic insulation, heat still breaches the hull. This creates what engineers call boil-off gas. Every single day, up to 0.15% of that precious cargo naturally vaporizes and escapes. It just boils away. On a 20-day voyage, you are losing millions of dollars of product to basic physics. Add to that the heavy bunker fuel required to push these steel leviathans through turbulent ocean currents, the constant mechanical lubrication of colossal turbine engines, and the relentless, unforgiving corrosion of salt water on metal. The ocean is actively trying to destroy this infrastructure from the moment it leaves the shipyard. Every rusted valve, every drop of evaporated gas, every localized storm adds a massive friction cost. The machine is literally bleeding money every single second it sits on the water. And guess where all that operational friction gets billed? Let's do the math on who actually absorbs this mechanical friction. When you look at your electricity bill, you think you are paying for the energy itself. You are not. You are paying for the rust. You are paying for the boil-off gas. You are paying the daily maritime insurance of a massive steel leviathan sitting in a storm. And here is where the financial violence really hits. The shipping elite control the bottleneck. When the European grid gets desperate, they don't just charge a flat fee. They squeeze the pressure valve. We have seen daily charter rates for these LNG supertankers violently spike from $50,000 a day to over $200,000 a day in a matter of months. That is a pure, unadulterated monopoly tax. And guess what? The utility companies do not eat that cost. The politicians do not eat that cost. Every single cent of that $200,000 daily lease, every drop of wasted bunker fuel, and every point of interest on their bank loans gets forcefully injected directly into your monthly utility bill. It gets baked into the cost of manufacturing every single product rolling off a European assembly line. That is the reality of inflation. It is not some invisible economic force. It is the literal cost of operating heavy, inefficient machinery on the open ocean. So the next time your power bill spikes, don't blame the free market. Blame the charter rates. So, how do you navigate this mechanical trap? The first step is to stop looking at energy like a politician and start looking at it like a chief engineer. The apex predators in this scenario are not the people debating climate treaties in Brussels. The real winners are the Greek maritime tycoons and the managers of massive midstream infrastructure funds. They do not care about geopolitical friction or green energy target. They do not care if the future grid runs on natural gas, synthetic fuels, or green hydrogen. Because they own the physical bottleneck. They own the heavy concrete and the sub-zero steel. They are the toll collectors standing at the exact gate of the European industrial sector. Let's look at the mechanical genius of their operation. It is what we call a closed-loop floating monopoly. These operators are not speculating on the daily price of natural gas. Speculation is for amateurs. They are leasing the heavy machinery required to move the molecule. They take their multi-million-dollar cryogenic vessels and lock European utility companies into unbreakable 20-year charter contracts. This is the ultimate financial weapon. It operates exactly like a physical toll booth made of cryogenic Invar steel, floating on the open ocean. Whether the gas actually flows through the subsea pipes, whether the spot price of LNG goes to the moon or crashes to absolute zero, it literally does not matter to them. The daily lease must be paid. The European taxpayer is contractually obligated to pay for the mere existence of that massive steel leviathan, rain or shine. They trade the chaos of geopolitics for the cold certainty of thermodynamics. Now, let's do the math on your own portfolio. Most retail investors are bleeding cash right now because they chase the political narrative. They blindly throw money at highly speculative renewable energy startups that rely entirely on fragile government subsidies and unpredictable political goodwill. They are trying to predict the future of energy generation. That is a loser's game. You need to pivot to the physical reality of the present. The smart money executes what we call Tollbooth investing. If you want to survive the capital drain of this global energy transition, you stop buying the invisible fuel and you start buying the physical plumbing. You look for maritime shipping ETFs that command the ocean freight. You investigate midstream infrastructure. You focus strictly on the entities that own the heavy steel pipes, the floating regasification terminals, and the high-pressure compressor stations. Because no matter what specific molecule powers the next 50 years, it will forcefully have to flow through their mechanical bottleneck. Stop paying the toll and start owning them. Let's strip away the noise. When you look at the geopolitical map of Europe today, you are looking at a phantom. The borders, the diplomatic summits, the endless political debates, they are nothing but a surface-level illusion designed to keep the public distracted. The real architecture of power is not drawn on paper. It is forged in Invar steel and anchored in the open ocean. We have witnessed a total paradigm shift. Geography is no longer destiny. Heavy machinery is destiny. The entity that controls the physical ships, the floating cryogenic tanks, and the high-pressure compressor stations holds the absolute life and death valve of the entire European industrial bloc. They don't need a standing army to project power. They just need to enforce the charter rates and maintain the thermodynamics. The Greek maritime elite proved that if you own the concrete and control the cash flow of the physical bottleneck, you don't just participate in the global energy transition. You dictate it. You tax it. And you force an entire continent to pay the rust bill. Let me leave you with a thermodynamic problem. Right now, Europe is locking itself into 50 years of LNG infrastructure. But what happens in a decade when the political winds shift again, and they mandate a complete transition to green hydrogen? You cannot just pump hydrogen through an invar steel LNG tank. It requires completely different metallurgy. So, when this $100 billion maritime fleet becomes physically obsolete, who exactly do you think is going to pay the rust bill? Let me know in the comment. Keep your mind open, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.